A brilliant idea can fail. A talented team can fail. A startup with millions in funding can disappear before the market even notices it. And sometimes, a business that initially looks strange, unrealistic, or even ridiculous enters the market at exactly the right moment and transforms an entire industry. So what actually determines whether a startup succeeds? Is it the originality of the idea? The intelligence of the founders? The strength of the team? The amount of money the company raises? The quality of the business model? Or is there another force that entrepreneurs consistently underestimate? A comparative review of 200 companies examined 5 major factors behind startup success and failure. The results challenged one of the most common assumptions in entrepreneurship. The strongest factor was not funding. It was not even the idea. It was timing. But timing alone is not a complete explanation. In this video, we will examine what a startup really is, why market timing matters so much, and how entrepreneurs can evaluate whether the world is truly ready for their solution. Because a great idea is not enough. The right idea must meet the right market at the right moment. What is a startup? Before discussing why startups succeed, we need one clear definition. A startup is not simply a young company. It is not a legal form. It is not automatically a startup because it uses technology, has a modern logo, attracts investors, or operates from a shared office. A startup is an organization searching for a repeatable and scalable business model under conditions of high uncertainty. The word searching is essential. An established company normally operates a business model that is already understood. It knows its customer. It understands its product. It has established processes. It has a relatively clear method for generating revenue. A startup is different. It is still testing critical assumptions. Who is the real customer? Which problem matters enough? Which solution will customers accept? How should the product be distributed? What price will the market pay? Can the model grow without costs increasing at exactly the same rate? A traditional company primarily executes. A startup searches, tests, learns, and adapts. That difference changes everything. The minimum startup logic. Not every newly created business is a startup. A local restaurant can be an excellent business. A family-owned shop can become highly profitable. A consultant can build a strong professional company. But these organizations do not automatically follow startup logic. A genuine startup normally requires 5 essential conditions. First, it must address a meaningful problem or opportunity. Second, important assumptions about the solution, customer, or market must still require validation. Third, the business model must have the potential to become repeatable. The company should not be forced to redesign everything from zero for every customer. Fourth, the model must be scalable. Revenue, users, or impact should be capable of growing faster than the resources required to serve them. And fifth, the founders must have the ambition to build something that can eventually grow beyond their own personal labor. This does not make startups superior to traditional businesses. It simply means they follow a different economic logic. A startup exists to discover whether an uncertain opportunity can become a repeatable, scalable, and sustainable system. Now we can address the more important question. Why do some startups discover that system while others never do? The 5 factors behind startup success. When successful and unsuccessful startups are compared, 5 major factors consistently demand attention. The first factor is the idea. How original is it? How different is it from existing alternatives? How strongly does it solve a real problem? The second factor is the team and its execution. Can the founders build, sell, and adapt? Can they respond when customers reject their original assumptions? Can they continue making intelligent decisions under pressure? The third factor is the business model. Does the company understand how it will create, deliver, and capture value? The fourth factor is funding. Does the startup have enough money to develop the product, reach customers, and survive the learning process? And the fifth factor is timing. Is the market truly ready for the solution? In the comparative review, timing represented the strongest observed factor, with a relative score of 42%. Team and execution followed at 32%. The idea reached 28%. The business model reached 24%. Funding came last at 14%. These numbers are not pieces of a single mathematical pie. They do not represent a universal formula. They describe the relative importance observed within that particular comparison. The message is not that funding or ideas are irrelevant. The message is that even strong resources can lose their power when the market is not ready. Why the idea was not number one. Most founders begin with the idea. They remember the moment of inspiration. They imagine the product. They see the future before other people see it. This creates emotional attachment. The founder begins to believe that the idea itself is the company. But customers do not reward ideas simply because they are original. Customers reward solutions that arrive when the problem is important, the technology is usable, the price is acceptable, and the required behavior feels realistic. A great idea can arrive too early. The necessary infrastructure may not exist. Customers may not understand the problem. The solution may demand too much behavioral change. Production costs may still be too high. Regulations may prevent adoption. The same idea can therefore fail in one period and succeed dramatically several years later. This does not mean the idea is unimportant. Without a meaningful solution, good timing produces nothing. But an idea creates potential. Timing determines whether that potential meets a market capable of receiving it. That is the difference between inventing something interesting and building a company customers are ready to support. Timing is not simply luck. When people hear that timing may be the strongest factor, they often reach the wrong conclusion. They assume startup success is mainly luck. You happen to launch during the right year. You happen to meet the right investor. You happen to benefit from an unexpected crisis, technological shift, or cultural change. Luck certainly exists. Entrepreneurs cannot control the economy. They cannot control public behavior. They cannot control every regulation, technological development, or global event. But timing is not completely invisible. It can be studied. A disciplined founder does not only ask, "Is this a good idea?" The founder also asks, "Why must this solution exist now? What changed recently? What became cheaper? What became technically possible? Which problem became more urgent? Which behavior became normal? Which infrastructure became available? Which regulation opened or closed the market? What are customers willing to do today that they were unwilling or unable to do 5 years ago?" The objective is not to predict the future perfectly. That is impossible. The objective is to gather enough evidence to determine whether the market is moving toward the startup, or whether the startup is attempting to drag an unprepared market toward itself. The CELFA Startup Timing Framework. To make timing practical, we can divide it into 6 dimensions. 1. Customer readiness. Do customers recognize the problem? A founder may understand a problem years before the market understands it. But when customers feel no urgency, every sale becomes difficult and expensive. The startup must first educate the buyer before it can even present the solution. 2. Technology readiness. Does the necessary technology work reliably? Can it deliver the required performance, speed, and quality? Is it affordable enough for commercial adoption? 3. Infrastructure readiness. Do payment systems, logistics, internet access, suppliers, hardware, and distribution channels support the model? 4. Economic pressure. Is there a financial reason for customers to change now? Rising costs, shortages, or economic instability can transform a previously optional solution into an urgent necessity. 5. Behavioral readiness. Are people psychologically prepared to use the product? A technically possible solution can still fail when customers do not trust it or do not want to change their habits. 6. Regulatory readiness. Does the legal environment support, tolerate, or obstruct the model? These 6 dimensions transform timing from a vague concept into an analytical framework. Timing is not only about being early or late. It is about understanding how many critical conditions are ready at the same moment. First channel CTA. Before we examine the companies behind these principles, subscribe to CELFA and activate notifications. This series is not built around empty startup motivation. We examine the systems behind entrepreneurship, innovation, leadership, and long-term business success. And write your answer in the comments. Which factor matters most in your current project? The idea? The team? The business model? Funding? Or timing? Do not only name the factor. Explain why it is currently your greatest opportunity or your greatest risk. YouTube, the same opportunity, a different moment. The history of online video provides one of the clearest examples of timing. Around 1999 and 2000, an online entertainment company attempted to build a video-based platform called Z.com. The company had funding. It had a business model. It had access to professional entertainment talent. The idea appeared promising. But watching video online was still difficult. Broadband access was limited. Video playback often required additional software. Different file formats created technical complications. The user experience was slow and frustrating. The company eventually closed in 2003. Only a short time later, the environment changed. Broadband became more widespread. Browser-based video playback became easier. Digital cameras became more accessible. More people began creating digital content. And in 2005, YouTube entered the market with a simple promise. Users could upload, share, and watch videos without managing complicated technical formats themselves. The desire to share video already existed. What changed was the environment. Technology and infrastructure finally made that behavior convenient. YouTube did not invent the human desire to communicate through video. It arrived when the market could finally support that desire at scale. The adoption tax. The online video example reveals an uncomfortable truth. A startup can have an intelligent team and a promising product, yet still spend its limited resources compensating for an immature environment. When infrastructure is missing, the company must build too much. It may need to educate customers. It may need to create supporting technologies. It may need to establish new distribution systems. It may need to solve problems that are not part of its central value proposition. This creates what we can call the adoption tax. Every unfamiliar action the customer must learn increases that tax. Every missing technical standard increases that tax. Every expensive supporting component increases that tax. Every additional explanation required before the customer understands the value increases that tax. Strong timing reduces this burden. The customer already understands part of the problem. The infrastructure already performs part of the work. The technology is already affordable. The market is already moving in the same direction as the startup. This does not make execution easy. It makes execution more realistic. A powerful timing question is therefore, how much of the environment must we personally create before the customer can receive our core solution? When the answer is almost everything, the startup may be too early. Airbnb, when unfamiliar behavior becomes acceptable. Airbnb demonstrates a different form of timing. In 2007, the first guest stayed in the founder's home. The concept officially launched during a major technology and cultural event in March 2008. It received only 2 bookings. A few months later, the platform entered another major event at a time when available hotel capacity was under pressure. That time, it generated 80 bookings. The concept initially sounded uncomfortable to many people. Why would someone sleep in a stranger's home? Why would a homeowner trust unknown guests? The technical platform alone could not eliminate those fears. The model needed mechanisms that could reduce uncertainty. Profiles, photographs, reviews, secure payments, identity information, customer support. Economic incentives also mattered. Hosts wanted additional income. Travelers wanted alternatives when hotels were expensive or unavailable. Major events created moments when traditional accommodation could not satisfy demand. The opportunity therefore depended on several forces arriving together. Internet platforms, digital payments, social proof, economic pressure, and growing confidence in online marketplaces. The company did not succeed because people suddenly became fearless. It developed systems that made unfamiliar behavior increasingly understandable and acceptable. Uber, when the smartphone became infrastructure. Uber demonstrates how one new device can create an entirely new business environment. The original problem was simple. People wanted a more reliable way to request transportation. But the need for transportation was not new. Drivers had existed for decades. Customers had always needed rides. What changed was the infrastructure. Smartphones combined several capabilities in one device: GPS location, mobile internet, applications, digital payments, real-time communication, user accounts, ratings. Without these capabilities, coordinating riders and drivers at scale would have required call centers, manual dispatching, and expensive dedicated hardware. The smartphone did not merely improve the product. It made the model operationally and economically possible. This distinction is essential. Some technologies are product features. Other technologies become platforms on which completely new businesses can be built. Entrepreneurs must therefore observe more than their direct competitors. They must watch enabling technologies. A new infrastructure layer can suddenly make an old idea commercially viable. The problem may have existed for years, but the solution becomes scalable only when the surrounding system is ready. Timing does not replace execution. It would be dangerous to conclude that the right market moment guarantees success. Many companies enter attractive markets and still fail. Timing opens the window. Execution determines whether the startup can move through it. A strong team must recognize market signals and adapt quickly. Customers rarely behave exactly as the founders predicted. They use the product differently. They ignore features the team considered essential. They demand capabilities the founders underestimated. They may value a benefit the company did not originally recognize. The team must therefore distinguish between the vision and the assumptions surrounding that vision. A weak team protects its first plan. A strong team protects the customer value while changing the path used to deliver it. The market can be ready while the company remains unprepared. The product may be unreliable. Customer service may fail. Costs may become uncontrollable. The company may recruit too quickly. The founders may misunderstand the customer. Timing creates opportunity. Execution converts opportunity into results. When timing is strong and execution is weak, competitors capture the market. When execution is strong but timing is poor, the company may run out of money before the market develops. Success requires both. The idea, business model, and funding. The remaining factors also interact. The idea determines what value the startup intends to create. But originality alone is not enough. The solution must be meaningful. It must be understandable. And it must provide a convincing reason for customers to change. The business model explains how the company creates, delivers, and captures value. Who pays? What do they pay for? How are customers acquired? What does it cost to serve them? Can revenue eventually exceed the total cost of growth? Some startups begin without a complete business model. They discover the revenue logic after strong customer demand appears. But delaying the business model is not the same as ignoring economics. Funding gives the startup time and capacity. It can finance development, recruitment, experimentation, and market entry. However, money cannot force customers to want something. Large amounts of capital can even hide weak assumptions. Funding may allow a startup to continue operating without proving real demand. Money can accelerate progress, but it can also accelerate waste. Funding is fuel. The business model is the engine. Execution is the driver. The idea determines the destination. Timing determines whether the road is open. Advantages of the startup model. The startup model has important advantages. Startups can experiment quickly. They often have fewer layers of approval than established corporations. They can redesign products, prices, and distribution without protecting decades of internal tradition. They can focus intensely on one emerging customer problem. They can use new technologies before established organizations are prepared to reorganize around them. Ownership can also align founders, employees, and investors around long-term growth. A scalable model can expand across regions without duplicating every cost. But these advantages do not come automatically. Speed without direction wastes resources. Flexibility without strategic discipline creates endless change. External capital without strong governance can weaken founder control. Growth without operational systems can destroy quality. The startup's greatest strength is its ability to learn faster than the environment changes. Its greatest danger is confusing activity with learning. A startup is not progressing simply because the team is busy. It is not progressing merely because it is building features, attending conferences, or raising money. Real progress occurs when uncertainty is reduced. Every serious experiment should answer a question. Every answer should improve the next decision. Disadvantages and startup risks. The startup path also carries major disadvantages. Revenue is uncertain. The business model may remain unproven for a long time. Founders can become financially and emotionally exhausted. Small teams often depend heavily on a few individuals. One resignation, failed investment round, or technical problem can threaten the entire organization. Rapid growth can create quality failures. It can produce cultural conflict. It can create uncontrolled spending. External investors may bring valuable capital and experience. But their expectations can also create pressure for growth before the organization is ready. Founder ownership may become diluted. Control may gradually move away from the original team. Strategy may shift toward short-term valuation instead of long-term value creation. There is also a psychological risk. Startup culture often celebrates extreme sacrifice, permanent urgency, and public confidence. But founders must still make rational decisions about health, cash flow, responsibility, and personal risk. Entrepreneurship requires courage. It does not require pretending that every risk is intelligent. A serious founder distinguishes calculated experimentation from uncontrolled gambling. The goal is not to eliminate uncertainty. The goal is to learn faster and more economically than the company consumes its available resources. The CELFA Startup Success Sequence. We can now connect the major success factors into one practical sequence. Problem: is there a real and meaningful customer need? Timing. Why is the market ready now? Solution. Does the idea solve the problem in a way customers can understand and adopt? Validation. Will customers use it, pay for it, or change their behavior? Execution. Can the team build, learn, and adapt? Business model. Can the company create and capture value sustainably? Funding. Does the startup have enough resources to continue learning and operating? Scale. Can the company grow without destroying quality, cash flow, and customer value? This sequence matters because startup factors do not operate independently. An idea without validation remains an assumption. Timing without execution becomes a missed opportunity. Funding without a business model may finance waste. Growth without systems can magnify failure. The central task of a startup is not to appear successful. It is to convert uncertainty into evidence. Evidence creates confidence. Confidence attracts resources. Resources support execution. And disciplined execution allows the startup to use the market opportunity before the window closes. The startup timing test. Before launching or scaling a startup, answer these questions honestly. 1. What changed recently that makes this opportunity possible now? 2. Do customers already recognize the problem? Or must we first convince them that it exists? 3. Is the required technology reliable and affordable? 4. Does the infrastructure support adoption, payment, and delivery? 5. Are customers psychologically prepared to change their behavior? 6. Is there enough economic pressure or benefit to justify action? 7. Does regulation support the model, restrict it, or create uncertainty? 8. Are competitors proving demand? Or are they showing that the strongest opportunity has already passed? 9. What evidence would demonstrate that we are too early? 10. What evidence would demonstrate that we are too late? The most important part is not answering these questions optimistically. It is answering them truthfully. Founders naturally love their ideas. That emotional commitment can create resilience, but it can also produce denial. You do not protect your vision by ignoring evidence. You protect it by discovering the right market, the right version, and the right moment. Conclusion and final CTA. So why do startups really succeed? Not because of one magical factor. A strong idea matters. A capable team matters. A workable business model matters. Funding matters. But even these strengths can lose their power when the market is not ready. Timing is the meeting point between the startup and reality. It is the moment when customer need, technology, infrastructure, economics, behavior, and regulation become sufficiently aligned. You cannot control all of those forces, but you can observe them. You can test them. You can stop confusing enthusiasm with evidence. You can recognize when the market is resisting your solution. And you can adapt before your resources disappear. A great idea may have the potential to change the world, but it can only grow when the world is prepared to receive it. Write in the comments. Is your current idea too early, perfectly timed, or already entering a crowded market? And explain the evidence behind your answer. Subscribe to CELFA for the next episode of The Entrepreneur's Mindset. Because entrepreneurship is not only about seeing what could exist. It is about understanding what must happen, what must change, and when an opportunity is finally ready to become real. So why do startups really succeed? Not because of one magical idea, not because of one brilliant founder, and not because investors suddenly decide to believe. Startups succeed when a real problem, a capable team, a workable business model, and the right market moment come together. Timing opens the door, but execution decides who walks through it. So do not only ask whether your idea is exciting. Ask whether customers are ready. Ask whether the technology is ready. Ask whether the infrastructure, the economics, and the market are moving in your direction. Because enthusiasm creates momentum, but evidence creates decisions. And disciplined decisions build companies that survive. Now look honestly at your own project. Is your idea too early? Is the moment finally right? Or are you entering a market whose greatest opportunity has already passed? Share your answer in the comments and explain the evidence behind it. Subscribe to CELFA and join the entrepreneur's mindset, where we do not simply celebrate ideas. We examine whether they can survive reality. Because the future does not belong only to those who dream. It belongs to those who understand the moment, build with discipline, and act before the window closes. This is CELFA. Think strategically. Build intelligently. Lead with purpose.